colleagues and individuals from other state or federal agencies. We are collaborating with the EEOC, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, and we're joined by Mike Rojas, and we are also joined by Maxine Robinson Lewin from the Connecticut NAACP. She is the president, and correct me if I'm wrong, of the Hartford chapter. We are also joined by Meg Yadashevsky, who is with the Department of Administrative Services and oversees, and I don't know if she is the director, but oversees the certification program for small and minority businesses at DAS. We are also joined by Felicia Dunsing, who is a investigator and reviewer at the Commission on Human Rights and Opportunities of set aside and affirmative action plans for contractors. And the state of Connecticut does hundreds of millions of dollars worth of contracting on public works contracts. And so she has a big role there in reviewing set aside and affirmative action plans. From there, we also have Dante Bartolomeo, who is the Deputy Commissioner of the Department of Labor, and she will be joining us at 2:30. And so we are happy to be here today to talk about surviving the pandemic, employment, unemployment, wages, salaries, and to give you some tips. How can we make it through this pandemic without being disproportionately affected certain protected classes? The Commission on Human Rights and Opportunities is the oldest governmental civil rights agency in the nation. And so right now you can imagine that we have an awesome task of dealing with all of the civil rights atrocities that we are confronted with. And then the pandemic has compounded what we have to deal with as an agency. Michelle Dumas-Kuehler is an attorney with the commission, and she is going to be co-moderating this event with me. And so let Michelle take it over now and talk to you a little bit about our mission, and then we will shift to the EEOC and Mike Rojas. Michelle, you are muted, my friend.
Oh, I hate that so much. I can't believe I did that. Hi again, unmuted. It's good to see the people I can see, and I know I can see the rest of you over on the side, and it's really great that you can join us today. So here at the Commission, we have been working really hard since March 13th when all of this happened, and it's kind of ironic that that's the date it is. It's very memorable. In order to make sure that not only do we provide the services that we always provide, but in a remote way, but that we also increase the services as it relates to what is coming out of COVID-19 and the pandemic. And that is on the employment side. We've seen lots of cases that are related to disability and going back to work and staying in work. And so it's really this kind of new area of the law that's going to be emerging because of what's going on. So this is obviously a very timely topic, and the information is going to be incredible. And it will go towards what our mission is, which is ensuring that the civil rights of everyone in the state are enforced through education, like this event, which is one of many that we'll be holding in the next month and a half. So check your inboxes on your email, because you'll be getting lots more coming up as it relates to employment and housing and public accommodation. And it also relates to our advocacy role, making sure that people know their rights, so that if they do find themselves in a situation where they need our help, that they know how to reach us. Or if they need the help of the EEOC where Mike works, that they know how to reach them too. So we're really excited to have you here. I think we should jump right into the panelists. So first up is Michael Rojas from the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm glad you got the mute thing first, not me. So it reminded me to make sure I do it. So that's, I always like that someone gets it first before I do. But good to see you again. And thank you, my colleagues, my Fair Housing and Employment Protection Agency colleagues. And welcome everyone to this webinar. My name is Michael Rojas, as mentioned, and I'm in charge of training and outreach for the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission for the Northeast region. So our area we cover is New York, Connecticut, all the way up into Maine, so the New England states, and the 13 northern counties of New Jersey. And today I just want to go over a little bit about refreshing about what the EEOC does, how our charge process works, our charge complaint process, and then talking a little bit about how we've adapted and changed because of COVID-19. So I'm going to share a PowerPoint real quick and just go into what I just discussed. So it should be coming up. Okay. So our mission, what do we do? So we're the federal agency responsible for enforcing the laws of employment discrimination. We receive, review, investigate charges of complaints and discrimination in the private sector. And then for federal workers, we have a hearings department where it's an EEO process that for federal employees, they have to go through their this process, and we hear those cases to make decisions with our own judges. And our guidance and information helps both educate employers and employees about their rights and responsibilities about the laws we enforce. My department is in outreach and education, and we provide technical assistance. So let's say you're a small business and you need information in regards to an issue you're having. So a lot of questions that we've been getting now in regards to COVID-19 is accommodations. So testing, if you have to wear a mask requirements, people saying that they can't come to work because of underlying conditions. All these types of things we have been answering and helping employers in these situations. And I'll provide my contact information. So if you have questions during the question and answer, or you need to follow up, we'll get that information to you. So let's talk about our protections and who's protected. So and different types of protections we have. Employees are protected, temporary workers, job applicants, undocumented workers. We don't ask about your citizenship status. And someone else is not protected that's listed here are like interns, volunteers. If a company is receiving a benefit from the work that you're doing with them, regardless if you're being paid or not, then you're considered an employee. And who's affected? So who's under our coverages? So basically everyone. The only difference here is that if a municipality or state or local government files a charge with us, we would do the investigation. However, the litigation or the federal hearing would be done by DOJ. So we have a partnership with Department of Justice, and we would contact them and turn it over, and they would then proceed into that legal process at that time. What type of employment issues will we deal with? Wages, benefits, recruitment, hiring, firing, training, promotions, layoffs, pretty much the whole process when it comes to, or issues when it comes to employment. And how are you protected? So you have the protected classes, and the protected categories fall under race, color, national origin, religion, sex. And in a recent Supreme Court ruling, now sex is covered, has under it pregnancy, and also now gender identity and sexual orientation, which was decided now and confirmed through the Supreme Court. Disability, which is big and which is our number one issue when we see with COVID issues under the ADA. Age, which is under our regulations, are 40 plus, and then genetic information. And a lot of people talk about, well, what's genetic information? And it's complicated, but it's a protection that protects your genetic information from employers accessing that information to make employment decisions. And our number one charge, which is a separate charge from these protected classes, is retaliation. So meaning if you make a complaint or are a witness, or are dealing with an issue in regards to your protected class, or a complaint about employment discrimination, then if the employee retaliates against you, that is also illegal, and that is a separate charge in which we handle. So under the laws, you have 180 days from the last time the incident took place or the discrimination took place to file a charge, but that is extended if the state and local agency enforces the laws on the same basis. So because Connecticut covers the same laws and enforces the same laws plus additional laws that we do, that time frame extends to 300 days. So that's important to know, and it's from the last time the incident has took place. And now how to file a charge. So this is one of the biggest issues that have dealt with now because of COVID-19. So currently, the nationwide EEOC has stopped in-person intake. So you can no longer currently right now come to an office and file a charge in person. If you must meet in person or you have other issues, we advise you to call our 800 number, which I will list later, or reach out to myself, or we have our number listed on our website for our local offices, which closest to you is either New York or Boston. And we will arrange a way to meet either virtually or somehow in person to meet to collect the documents. We can arrange it to be sent by mail. But our number one way to file charges right now is through our public portal. And you can go to our website, www.eeoc.gov, and in there you will see filing a charge with EEOC. And once you file a charge, you'll have the options to enter different information. And this is the process of a complaint. So when you file your complaint online, you will be offered, you submit in your statement, and we contact the employer, and the employer is made aware and they have an opportunity to respond. But before then, we would offer mediation. And if you accept mediation, you and the employer both have to agree, and independent mediator would work with you and the employer to try to come to a resolution. If that is not agreed upon, something new that we added is a pilot program that now mediation can happen at any point of this process. It no longer is only just in the beginning of the process. It can happen at any point. And this is a new process, that temp pilot that we are running through the end of the year. So normally it would only be offered in the beginning, but now it could be offered throughout. But if mediation doesn't work, then the EEOC begins their investigation. If we find merit in your charge, then we would discuss and try to work out settlement agreements or a conciliation. And if that is not agreed upon, then we would file a lawsuit against the company. And at that time, the information becomes public. If we don't decide to file a lawsuit, or you are represented by an attorney, you can ask for a notice of right to sue. Because of COVID-19, we weren't issuing out notice of right to sue, but as effective August 3rd, we are now resuming issuing out notices of right to sue. And then if your case is taken into a lawsuit, then that becomes public information. We issue out press on that case, and then we begin the legal process at that time. And so now I want to talk about COVID-19. And in regards to COVID-19, these are some resources on our website that are being updated frequently. And we have the pandemic preparedness in the workplace, which gives scenario type situations that talk about different areas of the pandemic and the ADA on your protections, what employers can and cannot do, what are your rights, and how to address certain issues. It's really great information that gives you detailed resources or detailed issues on how to deal with them. We also have a Ask the EEOC recorded webinar where we ask people to submit questions in that they have in regards to this pandemic and other issues. And then what you should know about COVID-19, the ADA, and the Rehabilitation Act. And that's updated as well. And it goes into also scenario situations and other disability-related questions you may have in regards to COVID-19. So this is a really great resource that you should visit. And if you have specific questions that may not be answered there, you can always reach out to myself as your local representative. And if I don't know the answer, I will get to someone that can get the answer, or let you know that this situation may not be covered under our regulations. And some of the issues that we see coming forward or arising with COVID-19 in as people return to work or cannot return to work is age. Pregnancy is an issue because of the difference of underlying conditions. And then us working with the CDC and other health and state and local guidelines and approaches for employers to invite employees who may have a higher risk of illness from COVID-19 to request flexibilities and modifications. So another big thing that we have is, like myself and a lot of other people are working from home. And then they're allowing some people to work from home, some not. And how is that regulated? So that's going to be, and then as you return to work, you may want to request to still stay at home. So these are real issues that we are seeing. And then caregiving responsibilities. We've been partnering with the Department of Labor that has the Family First Coronavirus Protection Act, and different emergency family leave issues that we see that give people different protections during this. So we are working with our federal partners and state and local partners to ensure that people are aware of their rights and how to deal with some of these issues. And we have offices in New York City, Boston, New Jersey, and Buffalo. But right now, the best way to reach us is online or contacting someone from one of those offices directly to try to help you with your situation. So that's what I have. I'll stop presenting now, and then I will I don't know if we're gonna go to the next thing or do questions and answers at this time.
We're actually going to have each of the presenters present first because of the tight timeline, and then we will take questions. So people, please keep a record of your questions for each one of the panelists. Thank you so much, Mike, for that valuable information. And next, we're going to move to Maxine Robinson-Lewin to talk about the NAACP and how your members have been affected by COVID-19.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you again for allowing me to be a part of this panel. My name is Maxine Robinson-Lewin, president for the Greater Hartford branch. We are the oldest civil rights organization in Hartford and in the world. Our national office is celebrating 111 years. In the Greater Hartford branch, we are celebrating 103 years. We do represent 29 cities and towns in the capital region. So we do have a large jurisdiction of residents that we do cover. So I just wanted to speak briefly. I've been asked to speak briefly about how our members have been affected by COVID-19. So as many individuals on the call today know, COVID-19 has exposed the inequalities that exist everywhere, but particularly in the healthcare system, which resulted in harm to the African Americans at a drastic proportionate rate. We have had members who have lost family members and friends to the coronavirus, including myself, who's lost a family member. We've also lost a former branch president, the president of our Stanford branch, NAACP. We've also had many of our members and officers and executive committee members who've experienced job loss, who've had to go out and seek other streams of incomes as most of the state was closed, resulting in many of our families trying to figure out how to cover cost of housing, food, and other necessities. And let's not forget, our immigrant communities, which of whom have not been able to receive adequate resources and services. And as a result of COVID, we've also had an influx of racial discrimination complaints by our legal redress committee regarding employment, housing, and just racial incidents just occurring in people's just daily lives. And in that, we hope that we can partner with CHRO and EEOC further to figure out how we can work together to navigate through these complaints. And just in a whole, our community just continues to remain marginalized and underfunded and largely forgotten. I know, as I mentioned before, many of our members have lost their jobs. When we talk about in total the community that we serve, we have seen a large impact to individuals in the low income brackets. We've also saw some of our small business owners, entrepreneurs who've also lost income due to the coronavirus. Many of our members have returned to work, some may not, some have not returned to work. And lastly, the last thing that we'll just talk about quickly is how is the NAACP dealing with the fallout from COVID-19? One of the biggest issues that we're currently working on is the reopening of schools. We've been having discussions with several groups, gaining feedback and their expertise. Many of these discussions are being led by our education chair, Jason Farquharson. Many of the parents that we have spoken to or have encountered and surveyed, they do not have the luxury of working from home. And many of them are finding themselves making a decision to send their child to school or going to work in order to pay their bills, to maintain their households. Also, in reading an article recently, moving into, voter registration, voter suppression is one of a bigger topic that we're also addressing as well. And mainly from our national office top down I was recently reading an article that spoke about there's roughly 100 million Americans who do not vote. And it led me to think about how people of color fit into that 100 million. And then how many of them are not even registered to vote. And it was very important for the Greater Hartford branch. We've partnered with organizations, Hartford Health Initiatives, Hoop Waves, Take Back Hartford, to host several voter registration drives targeting the underserved and under-resourced areas in the city of Hartford. We've also partnered with the census to ensure that we empower our residents to become civically engaged, and as well as educate them to ensure that everyone is counted we work with the census to allow these individuals to self-respond. So those are just some of the areas that the NAACP is working on as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. So.
Thank you so much for that information, Maxine. It's clear that there are a great deal of issues that we have to address. And we're hoping that through this webinar today that we can provide your members with some resources. Certainly the commission is here as a resource, and as Mike Rojas stated, the EEOC is here as a resource. We are sister agencies and we have a work sharing agreement with the EEOC, so complaints of discrimination can be filed with us and then dual filed with the EEOC because it is our mission and our intention to address all of these inequalities. We also, oddly enough, have a voting rights project and campaign that we're dealing with right now. We're issuing something every single day about the right to vote, how to vote for marginalized communities and for communities as a whole, and the importance of voting. So we are hoping that your organization can partner with us on that as well. Maxine will have to leave at 3 o'clock, but she has another individual who is going to stick around and answer questions and respond to questions that the public may have, or that CHRO staff or other state employees who are on the call may have. And can you say the person's name? I know it's Nadine.
Yeah, so there's actually 2 individuals on the call. So between the both of them, they can address any questions. They both serve on our executive committee. The first is Nadine Thomas and also Archbishop Dexter Burke.
Okay, wonderful. That's great. And I see that we have now been joined by, as I said, 2:30 and right on the dot, or a little early actually, Dante Bartolomeo, and hopefully I said your last name correctly. I practiced it many times. No, I know what your last name is. From the Department of Labor, and she is the Deputy Commissioner there. And so this is great to be able to hear from a federal partner and now a state partner, because for administrative purposes only, we are, I guess, relegated to DOL for many of our back office functions and business functions, as we don't have a business office within our agency. So we find ourselves working together a great deal. And this is a really important topic, and it really affects the work that Dante's organization or agency, state agency, does. So can you tell us about the unemployment program, how it works, and how the pandemic has affected your operations? And welcome. You missed the welcome, so let me say welcome as well.
Thank you, Cheryl, and thank you so much for inviting us today. And it's really nice to join everybody. I'm sorry it's a little bit late. We're just we're really busy, as most everybody is right now. So sure, I can kind of go into whatever it is that you like. That's a really open-ended question, so I'm not quite sure how to approach that best, but I did also prepare with me some kind of different information about demographics and that kind of stuff. So basically the unemployment program within the state of Connecticut is a 26-week benefit program, and the benefits range from $15 minimum to $649 maximum, and then there's additional for up to 5 dependents, so that can bring somebody up to $724. That is our typical state program. Since March 13th, we have added so many different programs because the federal government has initiated some, and others because we've kind of triggered by high volume of unemployment in the state. Before we went into this, the unemployment rate was hovering somewhere around 3.7% in the state. And we actually right now are looking at August. I think our projection within our office is about 16 to 17% mid-August. It went a little bit higher and came down a little bit. And so that is, very, very concerning, obviously. In addition to the state benefit program, the federal government actually added 3 additional programs all at once. One of those was called the PUA, the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance, and that is for folks who have exhausted benefits, state and federal, but it's best known for covering folks that are self-employed or gig workers or 1099s. And then there's another program that was called, I've got these acronyms in my head, Federal Pandemic Unemployment Compensation, I believe is FPUC, FPUC. And that was the additional $600 plus up, as we call it, that was put onto any benefit as long as there was a $1 benefit. It was put on there for the weeks of March 29th, and it ended the week ending July 25th. Then there was also another program called PEUC, Pandemic Emergency Unemployment Compensation, I think. And what that did is it was an additional 13 weeks of an extension that could be given to folks because of the pandemic. We also then triggered something called EB, which is extended benefits, because our unemployment rate went up rapidly. And a certain percentage above what it had been. So that gives additional weeks as well. So we have 3 programs, the PUA, the PEUC, and the EB, that are giving additional weeks. So some of the challenges within our agent, and then I'm sorry, we just triggered high extended benefits, which gives another 7 weeks. So part of the challenge with us as Department of Labor is that on March 27th, when the president signed into law the original 3 additional programs, he signed it on the 27th to be enacted on the 29th. And we didn't have systems even to be able to hand out and get the money out. So we were faced with a dramatic increase in state unemployment, and our system is quite antiquated. We were scheduled to replace the whole thing with a modernized system May of 2021. That is not going to be our target date any longer because we've had to pull people from that to design others. So we had to dramatically increase this kind of volume that was hitting an old aged system that was really tired and ready to retire. We then had to design and develop for these new programs. And we did that in a whole new system. So then we had to get the old system to talk to the new system. And then for the self-employed and gig workers and 1099s, we never get their wages because they don't come to us. They don't pay into unemployment. So they go over to Department of Revenue Services. So then we had to get old system to talk to new system, a new system to talk to Revenue Services. And so therein lies the challenge that we had getting payments out. And we were just recently, as of a week ago Monday, the president signed an executive order that will give additional funding to replace the $600. And we are currently struggling with understanding how that will work, and then looking to having to design, going forward. So we just, as soon as we catch our breath, there's something else on top of that. So I just want to assure everybody, it is our utmost importance to get benefits out to folks who genuinely need them. And we are literally working around the clock, and we are doing the best that we possibly can. I'm so proud of my staff and our agency for their dedication to trying to assist. Also, while our families and we are affected by COVID as well. So we're really doing our best. And I think now folks are seeing the Department of Labor as an essential service and a safety net, which, is really important that they keep in mind going forward.
Thank you so much. I have a question. You said earlier that you have some information about the demographics and who's actually being affected by this, the higher rates of unemployment, because that if there's a disproportionality, that would be of interest to the commission, and something that we want to make sure that that the NAACP gets answers regarding, because I know that their membership, as Maxine indicated, is being affected greatly by the pandemic and the fallout of the pandemic. And your camera went off. I didn't know if that was purposeful or.
Oh, I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know what happened there. I noticed it too, but I thought it's just, okay. I couldn't see myself.
Oh, there you go.
Sorry. So I started really kind of like diving into these numbers today, and quite frankly, it just took on a life of its own, because there's so many different ways to look at these numbers. So one thing I need to say is that what we are looking at is accurate as far as what we need to be reporting, but I just want to be careful about the fact that there's a lot within these numbers that needs to be understood, right? So when we start looking at things like continued claims, and that's really what I've been working on, and that's each week when we have people that are filing their weekly certification, those are the continued claims. It doesn't mean that they're all getting paid necessarily. There could be holds, there could be a variety of things. And it also, if you look from week to week, you have to remember that they're not unique individuals necessarily, because some people are coming on, some people are going off. So it's a little bit hard to extrapolate, conclusions from, but I still think it's very, very interesting. So what I did is I picked like the 1 week prior to the pandemic really showing a large effect on us, and that would be March 8th. And then I went into the week where we had the highest number of continued claims, and that was April 26th. And then that number has been going down a bit. And so I looked like a couple weeks back, because things adjust within a few weeks after, and I looked at July 19th. So first we'll take gender. So when we look at the March 8th, it was interesting because the females were 38% and males were 62%. I also think that could really correlate with things like the construction industry and seasonal workers, which is kind of a norm where they're just coming off of unemployment, right? And then when we get to the highest peak week of our continued claims, that was April 26th. And females are 55% of those filing continued claims, and males are 45%. And then the week of July 19th, week ending July 19th, we have 56% females and 44% males. So it's staying about the same throughout. And stop me, please, if there's questions. Then I went on to race, nationality, and origin. and looked at those same weeks. For March 8th, 55.5% were white. April 26th, 59% white. And then July 19th, 54.5% white. We compare that again, March 8th, 15.5% Black African American. Getting into the peak week, April 26th, 12.4% Black African American. And that was interesting because then July 19th, back to the 15.7% African American. Again, week prior to the onset, March 8th, 20% has Hispanic, Latino, or Latinx. April 26th, 16.9%. And then July 19th, 18.3%. Now I do have other nationalities. I just don't know how much detail you want, how many more you want me to go into.
Can you also give us for Asian?
Yep. So March 8th, Asian was 1.9%. April 26th, 4.8%. And July 19th, 4%. Then what I did is I went into looking at, and this is because of the presidential executive order is concerning in the way that it's structured, because it's saying that if anyone, you have to receive $100 or more benefit per week to get the additional funding. So that means for us that those folks who are $99 or less benefit, which we do have them because we're actually, I'm very proud to say we're one of the states that has the lower minimum. So you actually incorporate more folks who are lower wage earners. And yet this is excluding anyone who's getting 99 or less from getting the additional plus up. So I find that concerning. And so we looked at that. And for those folks who are receiving less than $100 state benefit, of them, women represent 58% and men 42%. Now, when I look at the $100 or more, women are 56% and men are 44%. So again, I'm not going to draw any conclusions, just give you the numbers. Right. Now, I'll go back to the, I thought I could probably do them like under and then over to compare. So if you're the folks under $100, white is 51%. Over $100, white is 56%. Under $100 is Black is 19%. $100 or more, Black is 15%. Under $100, Latinx is 19%. $100 or more, they're 18%. And then Asian is 4% at both.
Okay.
And I have one last thing for you, kind of with some numbers and demographics. I looked at age, and I looked at age for those same weeks of March 8th. It was interesting because prior to this, the group with the highest number of continued claims was ages 50 to 59. And then the next highest group was 30 to 39. So I should say it's lower, right? And then so the highest was 50 to 59. Below that was 30 to 39. Just below that was 40 to 49-year-olds. And then below that was 20 to 29-year-olds. But that changed when I look at April 26th and at July 19th. So when we look at those, both of those dates, April 26th, July 19th, the group with the highest continued claims is actually ages 20 to 29. The next highest is 30 to 39. And then 50 to 59. And then come in your 40 to 49. So it shifted around a bit. Your 50 to 59s prior to were the most continued filers, but then during your 20 to 29s are the highest group with the most continued filers.
And does that say anything to you? Like, does that have any significance?
Well, I don't know. I don't really want, I'm trying not to draw conclusions, right? The only thing I can think of, and this is, please, don't hold me to it, but a lot of folks in the 20 to 29, I think, are doing gig work. And, so I don't know if that comes into play or not.
Okay. Wow, interesting. Are there any resources that are available that you can direct people to? Like, your website, are there specific tabs on your website?
Yes, so a couple things. Folks should really follow us on Twitter. If they have that and other social media, we have things called DOL dailies. We have a new communications director who's really doing a great job kind of bringing us into this age. And so she's been doing like these short snippet videos and, helpful hints. We also, our web page, our CTDOL internet web page is really has been kind of challenged and problematic because it's not nimble at all. It's on an older platform. So what we've done is we migrated the page which folks do their weekly filing on and go to apply. And we migrated that to a more modern platform. So that's pretty cool. That's the File CTUI. And if you go to File CTUI, that's where we have our blue, green, and red buttons, and you can, do your initial application on the blue button. You can do your self-employed PUA application on the red button, and your continued claims and payment stuff on the green button. So that's all very nicely, clearly marked right now. And on that page, File CTUI, we also have a section that says Quick Clicks. And if you are having trouble in a specific area, you can click on that and it directs you to get your question to the right area of the agency. The other really, really important thing that we just did was we launched what called a contact center, different from the old call centers that we used to have, in that the old call center, and we unfortunately had to close that at one point in time, but that was, you could call in to have your claim submitted and followed up and any problems. Now you submit your claim online by going to that File CTUI. But if you're having difficulties, you have a hold, you have other kinds of problems, we need to touch base with you. You can do that a few ways now that we've developed this contact center. I will say that the staffing and the money to stand up the contact center is coming from CARES Act funding, which is only good through the end of the year. So we have a bit of a challenge because we know that the demand for our services is much greater, and we expect to continue to be greater than the supply we have in staff and people to work with you. So we are looking at how we might be able to continue this contact center longer, but there's an option to call and speak with someone. There's also a way that you can go, like I said, through that File CTUI page. You could do the quick clicks and folks can answer your questions through email. We also, if you go down to the bottom of that page, File CTUI, it says in a pop-up blue button, Ask DOL. That will bring you to a virtual assistant. Her name is Tina and she's bilingual. And Tina will go through a series of questions with you and then direct you either to a person or to submit an email or to do even a live chat when we have the staff available to do that. So I think that, we worked very hard, and it seemed like a long time, but as quickly as we could get the funding going and all of that to be able to be more accessible to our customers for a pandemic that nobody could predict.
Right. Well, thank you so much for your comments so far, and we're going to ask you to stay on. We're actually going to try and save the questions until the end so we can hear from each of the presenters. And so I thank you for all that the Department of Labor does to try to address the needs of the public. And these are certainly difficult times. It's difficult times for our agency as well. And so we understand that as a state, we have limited resources and we have a huge demand, and sometimes it makes it, really difficult. But it's good to hear that you have all of these like buttons, and the blue button, and the, what do you call it, the filed CT UI button that you can go and press. And this is good because this will help people be able to navigate through your process.
Well, Cheryl, I want to give you a shout out because I know how hard you're working. You and I work actually at 10 o'clock at night. So shout out to you as well.
Thank you very much. So next up, we have Meg Yadushevsky with the Department of Administrative Services. And I don't see Meg. Where are you, Meg? I know you're on here.
Here I am.
Oh, here she comes. Okay, everyone get ready. Can you tell us about the DAS certification program and what are some of the benefits of becoming a certified small or minority business, and how the pandemic has affected your operation? And once again, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us and to give your wisdom to all of us who are on this Teams call.
Great. Thank you. First, thank you so much to CHO for including us in this event. I'm always excited to talk about the certification program, and hopefully many of the small businesses that are on the call today will take away some information and come and get certified with us as the state of Connecticut. I also want to thank the other presenters. I have copious notes that I am taking down on each of your presentations and learning a lot from you. So thank you all for that. First, let me just introduce myself. I'm Meg Yadushevsky. I am the program manager for the Supplier Diversity Program for the state of Connecticut. And in that program that is housed at Department of Administrative Services is the certification program for small and small minority-owned businesses. I am going to take a moment now to just kind of get and share some screens with you so that I can walk you through an overview and answer some of the questions that Cheryl has presented to us that hopefully will be helpful for everybody on the call. And then I'll take some questions. So bear with me, and I'm going to go away and put up some screens for you.
Great.
Can everybody see the slide?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Not that I'm everybody, but I can see the slide.
Well, you are. If you can see it, that means everybody can see it. I'm trying to put it into slideshow, so bear with me for 1 sec. If not.
Meg, up on the top in the orange,
Yes.
slideshow.
Yes. Thank you, Kristen.
Yep, you're welcome. Click it one more time and then just say from the beginning.
Slideshow.
Top left, yep, and then on the left.
Yes, thank you. All right, perfect. Thank you very much. I'm learning, as I mentioned, working from home. I've learned a lot of technology that I never knew before. So anyways, thank you. I want to give, again, an overview of our program. As many of the small businesses that are on the call today know that there's many different certifications out there, and they're all very good for your businesses. If you're looking to do work with the federal government, the state government, and at a municipal level. I'm going to talk to you today about the state certification program, and particularly our supplier diversity program. But I also, before I got into the certification, I wanted all of the individuals on the call to realize that my office is a resource for you. We have several missions out of our office, and one of them is to serve as a liaison for you, the small businesses. If you're looking to do business with the state of Connecticut on our procurement opportunities, come through our office. I have staff that will help you and navigate you to the appropriate person in procurement. So use us as your liaison. We actively recruit and certify small businesses throughout the state of Connecticut. And by that, I will tell you that, prior to the pandemic, we were traveling all over the state of Connecticut, from Putnam to Greenwich, all over, kind of doing road shows, as I call them, with many of the Chamber of Commerce, many of the municipalities. And we are continuing doing that. We're just doing it a different way now. We're doing it virtually. So know that we're actively recruiting, trying to get as many companies certified in our program, because the state of Connecticut procures everything. So if you're sitting on the call and you're in the trades, or you're a supplier of material, or you're an accountant in the service industry, or an architect, we want to do business with you, and it would behoove you to get certified in our program. One of the other initiatives that we have is, again, we're working to build stronger relationships through our supplier diversity initiatives. So working with the Commission on Human Rights and Opportunities, working with many of the organizations that are throughout the state of Connecticut. We do a lot of partnering and a lot of matchmaker events and so forth. So again, you utilize our office if you have any questions, and we'll kind of be your traffic cop and hopefully get you to the right direction. And my contact information will be at the end of this particular presentation. The state of Connecticut's web online application for certification was launched many years ago. We went from an intensive paper application to an online web-based application. That's because we wanted to be open 24 hours a day, so that you guys as a small business owner can come in and do our application online. It is a secure site. You need an email and a password to get in. Again, if any of you are interested in this, shoot me an email and I'll have somebody work with you. The takeaway today is that it is a secure site. It is electronic. It is a web-based application. One of the features that we have, because it is an online application, is we're getting applications in and assigning them immediately upon your submission. So the process to get certified and get to a reviewer is very timely. As I mentioned, there's many certifications out there, and I realize that. I want to briefly go over the small business certification for the state of Connecticut, because ours is fairly unique in the fact that in order to be certified in the state of Connecticut's program and participate in some of the opportunities that are out there in our procurement process for small businesses, your principal place of business has to be located here in Connecticut. We are one of the few certifications nationally that has that particular requirement. It is an economic development program for our state's small businesses. So your principal place has to be here in Connecticut. Your gross revenue cannot exceed 20 million in your recently completed fiscal year, and you have to be an independent company. Let me touch on two of those real quick, because many of you on the call may be saying, well, what does she mean by principal place of business? What I mean by principal place of business is that your nerve center of your company has to be located here in Connecticut. Your employees have to be located here in Connecticut in their main office. We look at that. It's not for construction industries, I always use the analogy of, you can't have a trailer on a site and call it your principal place of business. Again, the premise of our program is economics for Connecticut-based businesses. So we look at that. We'll ask you for some in-depth questions in the application related to principal place of business. The second piece I wanted to touch on was independent. We get a lot of questions on that. Well, what do you mean by independent? What we mean is that the viability of the applying company cannot rely on any other company related to employees, equipment, bonding, financial resources. You have to be an independent company. Again, in the application process, we do ask a lot of questions surrounding this, and we give the company, the applying company, the opportunity to provide as much documentation to support the fact that they are independent. This is one of the most critical pieces of our certification, is that we want to make sure that the companies that we're applying meet this particular standard. Again, our certification has its unique eligibility requirements based on statute. So when we're looking at a company, we're looking to see that you're located in Connecticut, that you're an independent company, and that you're under the $20 million. Well, we'll also look to see if, in fact, you want to get certified as a small minority-owned business. We'll look at your ownership of your company, and we're going to look to see that 51% of the ownership is held by a person or collectively persons who exercise that operational authority, have that power to direct that management of that company. And one of the most critical pieces of our analysis is to ensure that the owners collectively, if you're making up that 51%, possess the managerial and technical competence in whatever the services or products that the company provides. Very important. We look at this prior to the pandemic. We were going out what we considered on-site visits. Again, we're still doing those, but we're doing them a little differently now. We're doing them virtually. With the use of technology, we have had the opportunity to get into companies and actually do tours of companies through Skype and through some of the other technologies that we have. So we're looking at that. Again, in order to get certified, we as a certifying agency have to make sure that the company meets the various criteria. And one of the most important ones is to make sure that the owners have that technical expertise. So again, during the application process, we're going to ask you for some documentation and some questions surrounding that particular piece of the certification. Benefits of certification, marketing opportunities. Again, as you get certified and when you get certified, you are given a certificate that you hold, and that allows you the marketing ability to not only work for the state of Connecticut, which is the focus that I would like you to do, because again, being housed in procurement, I know that the state of Connecticut procures many, many different products and services. But your business, you may also want to do business outside the state of Connecticut. We have several large companies located here in Connecticut that also utilize our certification. So again, that's some marketing opportunities for you as a small business owner. In addition, I mentioned earlier that your certification will allow you to participate in some procurement opportunities here in the state government. You will note that there are several bidding opportunities that are out on the street today that will allow you to participate in those bids if you hold this certification. So again, we call those set aside opportunities, and this certificate would allow you to do that. Networking opportunities. We also, as I mentioned earlier, hold several marketing and networking opportunities. Those are always posted on our website. I would direct every small business on this call to navigate through our DAS supplier diversity website, because you'll see that we have and will continue to post several different workshops and matchmaking event. Again, we're still doing those. We're doing those virtually, but we're having several of those where we'll bring in prime vendors, and you as a small business will have an opportunity to speak to those prime vendors and their procurement opportunities and really sell your product and your wares and see if in fact there's a match there. So we continue to do that, and I would encourage all of you to participate in those. Once you get certified, people always say, well, great, I got certified, now what? I went through the application, I have a beautiful certificate. Well, at this point, as soon as you get certified, you go out on an online directory of businesses. I call this kind of like our yellow pages of certified businesses in the state of Connecticut. Currently, we have about 3,500 companies certified in the program, ranging from service industries to commodities. Every different type of company we try to get certified, because remember, the state of Connecticut buys everything. So we want to have a vast array of companies certified. You're looking on the screen here this is our directory, and this is on our website, and companies come here all the time to find companies. They want to find local companies. They want to find companies that are located either in their town or in the state of Connecticut. Your company would go out on this directory of certified businesses. And I will tell you that many companies are finding this very helpful because they're getting calls from companies that that want to do business with them because they went out here and found them on this particular directory. This happens immediately. As soon as you get certified, you go out on this directory. All the state agencies come here and utilize this when they're looking for opportunities with small businesses, and as well as many of the large corporations here in Connecticut. I was on the phone this morning with representatives from UTC and some of their sister agencies, and they're looking to utilize our directory of small businesses as well. So again, that's a feature that happens as soon as you get certified. There's no cost to our program to participate. Your certificate is good for 2 years. We have a electronic system where, similar to some of your other licenses, we mirrored it a little bit after your driver's license, where you get a reminder saying, hey, you got to go in and get your recertification. Similar to that, once your certificate is going to come up for renewal, we will send you an email saying you need to come in and get your certificate renewed. We don't send that to you once, we send it to you 3 times. We send it to you 90 days before your certificate's going to expire, 60 days, and 30 days. As a small business owner, we understand that you have a lot of other requirements and other things going on in your daily activities. So we try to give you as many reminders so that you keep this particular certification current, because it has value to your company when you're participating in procurement opportunities. The last bullet here I wanted to touch base on is, every state agency here in the state of Connecticut gets a budget in July. And if their budget is more than $10,000, there's some requirements there that they have to utilize some small minority certified businesses in their procurement opportunities. So you, as business owners on the call, should be aware of that and know that there is that statute there. My office does work with the state agencies on this to ensure that that is in fact happening. So as small business owners, know that every state agency has this obligation, and if you're looking to do business with some of these organizations, this could be a vehicle for you to do such. COVID-19, I wanted to touch base. Cheryl had asked us all to kind of talk a little bit about the effects of this pandemic on our particular programs. I will tell you that, being in procurement and being in the heart of it, we were, as all of us, were struggling when the pandemic first started, and we were working nonstop to try to secure PPEs. The procurement office at DAS really worked diligently to try to ensure that. And in the same time, we're looking locally too. So if you see on your screen, I'm going to read this because this is just one excerpt that I could have probably had many more slides here showing you some of the successes of some of the companies that really reconfigured their operations to help us with our PPEs locally. But there were a number of Connecticut manufacturers and distributors who assisted us with the PPEs. For example, a parachute company retooled to make masks. That was a unique situation, and they are a small business located here in Connecticut. A plastics company in Connecticut retooled to make face shields. That was a woman-owned business. A cardboard company assisted us with making portable beds. A local Connecticut company supplied us with ventilators out of Guilford, Connecticut. Another Connecticut manufacturer retooled to make gowns. We also had a good number of Connecticut business persons offering their service to broker some of the masks for us. We needed some, and remember, we were all trying to do this quicker, cheaper, faster, as best as we can. There was some very non-traditional procurements during this peak of the COVID because we needed to get the products here quickly, and the small businesses in Connecticut were extremely helpful and part of our solution. I have a lot of specifics on that. I'd be happy to share some of that with Cheryl, should you want that. But again, the COVID-19 definitely affected how we procured. It affected some of the small businesses to retool and help us. As far as the certifications, we actually saw an increase in certifications because I think a lot of companies were looking to reinvent themselves and kind of redo their business planning, and therefore they came in with some new companies and new ideas. So we did see an increase in companies applying to our program, and quite frankly, many of the PPEs or the various products that we were looking for. I wanted to also just give you a visual for those businesses that are on the call and those other representatives from different agencies. I want you to see these numbers. These are the numbers that were reported spend. As I mentioned, the state agencies are obligated to utilize small minority-owned businesses. I ran some numbers this morning, and these are some of the reports that came out. So you'll see the figures here for reported spend for fiscal year 19 to 20. The small minority-owned business is the combination, and then the minority business is of that number. While those numbers are good, we can and will do better. We should do better. But I wanted to give you a visual so that you as small business owners on the call can see some real numbers and see that, in fact, the state of Connecticut is procuring with small and small minority-owned businesses. This was last year's spend, and we'll see what happens in this year moving forward. That's my contact information. I'll leave it up on the screen for a little bit. I'm sure we'll follow up with some specifics, but the best way to reach me is email at this moment in time. That's why I didn't put my direct number up there, but if that's easier for somebody, just let me know and I'll get that to you. I will be happy to navigate you through the procurement process and get you in touch with whoever you need to. If you want to get certified and feel that you meet those standards, I would encourage you to do so. This is a program for Connecticut-based businesses, and it is an economic development program that helps companies succeed through our procurement process. Thanks, Cheryl.
Meg, thank you so much for that very informative presentation. I think it should be clear to those on the call wishing to certify their business how to do so. And we are hoping that you can stay with us to answer some questions. But we are going to hear from our last presenter for the day, who is none other than Felicia Dunsing, who is a CHRO investigator and reviewer of affirmative action and set aside plans on public works contracts. And Felicia, welcome, and thank you for taking time out of your day to participate in this event that hopefully is helping the NAACP and its members and the general public, and also the CHRO staff and other state agencies that have joined us. Can you tell us briefly some tips, like what is it that you do, and how do you review these plans, and how can someone get an approved plan? Because that's the ultimate goal. Mm-hmm. People want to, businesses, subcontractors, contractors, they want to get an approved plan. So is it such a Herculean task that no one can do it, or is it something that you can explain and then everyone can get an approved plan? What say you?
Okay, well, first of all, thank you so much for this opportunity, and good afternoon, everyone. And I think that it's very important to understand first what the mission is in reference to the contract compliance unit. the Commission on Human Rights and Opportunities, our mission is to eliminate discrimination and establish equal opportunities for small business entities in Connecticut. The Contract Compliance Unit, here we monitor compliance with state contract laws and construction projects that use state funds. The set-aside program is a contract awarded preference program for state-based small contractors. And as stated with the previous speaker, that definition, which is always a question for a lot of our contractors, is based on businesses that have been in business for a year and have not exceeded 20 million year gross revenue and has a principal place of business in the state of Connecticut. And monitoring the contract compliant set-aside plans here, we are here to assist every contractor in getting a plan approved. It is our goal to ensure and to pretty much assist you in any questions that you have after you have been awarded a state-funded project. We are here to provide technical assistance training that used to be done face-to-face in meetings with several individuals, but now we hold conference calls with contractors and subcontractors and completing their set-aside plans and affirmative action plans. Feel free to reach out to us at any time to ensure that any questions that you have while completing those documents, we can assist you. Other things that we monitor to ensure that our mission to establish equal opportunity for small businesses is to ensure that the contractors are using good faith efforts and soliciting to small business entities and good faith efforts in, I'd rather read this because I don't want to miss anything and make sure everyone truly understands. We are monitoring good faith efforts and for contractors to consult the State Department of Administrative Services in locating small business entities to participate on projects. That website that the previous speaker alluded to, spoke about and showed you, that is the main location where contractors are going to be looking for your small businesses. And if you are not on that site and not certified by that company, then it is, then that may be an issue in reference to getting solicited by contractors for any construction projects that use state funds in Connecticut. That allows contractors to give each small business entity the opportunity to competitively bid against one another by soliciting each trade material and service that is listed in their awarded construction contract. Also, contractors are expected to solicit bids only from those subcontractors or vendors who can provide the trade material or service. So if they are awarded a drywall contract, it is very important that they are able to go on the previous speaker's website and ensure that your company is actually listed as a drywall contractor or a drywall supplier. So that website is basically a very big part of ensuring that good faith efforts is met. Contractors are also responsible for providing documentation to ensure that their solicitation was done in good faith efforts. Hopefully I explained good faith efforts in a simple manner, but if you have any additional question as to how we monitor good faith efforts, you can definitely do that at the end of the program. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you have. In reference to COVID-19, some of the things that have changed are individuals providing their plans on time. We do understand that due to the situation with COVID-19, it may take an extended period to submit your revision, and we are allowing extended time frame for that. And also with the conference calls with several individuals contacting us with assistance. I would say it's not hard to get your plan approved whatsoever, because we are definitely here to support you in doing that. I would like to encourage those who are on this conference call to contact our office at any time with any questions that you may have. And again, the commission, our contract unit is definitely here to assist you at all times. I know everyone spoke for a long time. I'm not sure how much time I do have, but I would like to just add one additional aspect is the goal is to use small businesses for at least 25% of the work, and to use DAS certified Connecticut businesses owned by women, minorities, and persons with disabilities for at least 6.25 of that work. So it is a substantial amount of the contract, the awarding contract state funded portion that our unit is looking for the awarding agency to achieve. Thank you.
Felicia, thank you so much for that information. And at this time, I want to applaud all of our speakers. Here's our clapping hands. Thank you so much. And we'd now like to entertain questions that people have for any one of the speakers. While Maxine had to leave, she does have a representative here from the NAACP, 2 representatives, and so there is a raise your hand feature on Teams, and there is a little hand, like if you just hover around the center of your screen, you could raise your hand and you could pose a question. While we're waiting for the questions, and we definitely encourage people to ask them, this is a time to get information. You know, rarely do you have this much talent in one room. So now's the time to get answers to any questions that you may have. This has been a very challenging time for the Commission on Human Rights and Opportunities, as the pandemic has underscored some of the disparities within our state, disparities nationally, and there's some intersectionality with healthcare and education, who should be sent back into the schools, what areas are hot spots and what areas are not. There has been some effects of being low income, access, mortality and morbidity rates are different depending on what protected class you belong to. So certainly COVID-19 has exposed us. While Connecticut is doing so much better than so many other states, we still have work to do, and we want to do the work, right, in our great state. We want to make sure that you have the resources, that you know how to access those resources. I think Dante gave us a treasure trove of resources available at the Department of Labor, and how to click and find out information that we need. I think, Meg, you have made it so clear how easy it is to get certified, and that if people are having difficulty with it, that they can actually contact you via email. And I think that that's so important. And our sister federal agency, the EEOC, who we are in lock and step with, I think you have made it very clear what people need to do when they believe they're the victim of illegal discrimination, and how COVID-19 has affected not only us locally, but there's this national ripple in effect because of the trying times that we are in. And so, Michelle, do you have any?
I have a question. Well, I have a question for Mike. Sorry, Mike, to put you on the spot. I guess I'm curious from the EEOC's perspective, how you're handling the uniqueness of the claims that are coming in, particularly on the disability side. Because when we're talking about disability and accommodation, and especially return to work, Usually it's, I need a couple more weeks, or I need a month or two that employers have to consider. But this could be really a time period with no end as it relates to people needing to come back to work who have pre-existing health conditions or are living in vulnerable households. What are you seeing for those types of cases, and kind of how are you handling? We're starting to get cases in, but I'm wondering if you might be further down the road than us. So I was curious about that.
So you are correct in saying that because of the current situation and the accommodation requests and disabilities, timeliness is an important factor in these issues. So what we have seen, what we have been doing is we've been really trying to be upfront with the information that we've been putting out in regards to how to handle these situations, in regards to suggesting that employers, can put in place temporary accommodations and give these temporary issues that they don't have to necessarily have all the upfront medical information, because that's the next problem where people can't get to make these appointments and get the required information that's required under the interactive process. So we're really trying to be upfront and get to employers and let them know ways that they can address these issues now, and then we can then look to try to deal with them going forward. And in the case of with the charges, we are sort of like prioritizing some of the issues that we see come in as best as we can. And being that we have the online portal system, that has become a little easier to do because we're able to now have everything in one system and with them coming in. So we're able to look and review. And then also the mediation pilot also comes in hand because now we can then look to try to address these issues up front with that as well. So those are some of the things that we've done, but it is a hard issue, difficult to deal with because of a situation that's going on. A lot of it is timely because people are having these issues now, and the normal processing period that we have, like sometimes things may not come into 30, 45 days down the road that those issues they don't have. And then also referring them to the protections they have, like working with our federal partners in regards to the emergency family, the emergency FMLA, family medical leave, which is now paid for that 2-week period, which helps with in regards to, COVID issues, childcare, and those other issues. And then also them working with the Family First Coronavirus Protection Act. So it's getting out information, doing events like this, but then also handling these cases individually where we see that need the most attention. So those are just different ways that we've been trying to address it.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think, for us and a lot of people that I've spoken to, the medical side of it certainly is difficult because it's, a lot of people's physicians are really, in their own way trying to navigate, getting appointments in with and having to spend a lot of more time on that. And then I think the other thing that seems to be challenging, and I'm interested to see how it's going to work out, is just, for people who have pre-existing conditions who cannot necessarily go back into work, how long that's going to be allowed as an accommodation, or how long that's going to go on for before it's going to be unreasonable for an employer to keep that employee. And I found that the employees are kind of put in a really terrible spot because either they have to go back in because they don't have the time, or and risk, harm, or they lose their job. I mean, it's just, they're all bad choices, I guess. So it's kind of hard when I'm talking to people, because there's none of the roads they can take are really great roads. So anyway, yeah, thanks for that.
Dante, I have a question for you. Do you see an end in sight, or does this, how are you feeling over at the Department of Labor? Because you guys have you're taking a huge brunt of the fallout from COVID-19. Of course, we're getting a lot of calls regarding discrimination related to, disability or race and color as it relates to, healthcare access and education. But you guys are also getting slammed, and I'm just, do you see an end in sight? Is there any hope? You're muted.
I said, oh boy, I don't want to crush people's hopes and dreams.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, look, I think that we're going to see a very high unemployment rate for quite some time. You know, in the double digits is our guess. I don't know that there's anybody out there who could really predict, because we couldn't predict what's going to happen with the virus, right? So, you know, I mean, we could see a resurgence of this soon. We just don't know. And I think it's also tied to the fact of how soon before there's a vaccine. And then, you know, so as far as that, I really don't know. As far as us and our work, we don't see a end in sight, not for at least, you know, even if things kind of go back to the quote unquote normal, we're probably dealing with another 12 to 18 months of intensive work. People think often about the applications, the claims, and the getting the benefits. Well, I just went through, you know, now we have extended benefits and then high extended benefits. So some folks could potentially be on benefits for quite some time, which is good if the economy and jobs don't rebound. But there's also a mounting challenge now that we've gotten to the point where initial applications come in, and within less than a week we're able to get them into processing. Now we've got that under control, but then there's the back end where, you know, there's the fact findings, which can be called adjudications, and then there's the appeals, and there's there's 3 steps and 3 levels if someone is contesting. So, you know, there's a lot to be done on that end. And now we're at the point where if you've come through and you're, for whatever reason, questioning, protesting, or let's say somebody came on and their employer is protesting, right? So the employer gets, both sides get that due process. We're at about 70 days before the first adjudication hearing is available right now. And that's been mounting and mounting and mounting. And so that gets us to the point where it's based on our staffing. So our agency from 2014-15, with layoffs, retirements, and attrition, our entire agency is down about 35% prior to COVID starting. But unfortunately, some of the units that got hit hardest during that were a couple of the unemployment units and our IT technology unit, down to 50 to 60%. So those are really, those are positions that you can't just train up quickly. So, you know, as far as our unemployment, our typical training period has been a minimum of 4 months for someone to walk in the door and then get to the point where they're like standing on their own feet and able to do independent claims for the most basic of functions. We had to take that 4 month, we reduced it to a 4-week in a virtual environment, something we never had to do before. And then now for the latest group that we're hiring, we reduced it down to 2 weeks. So what that means is you've got the experienced folks who are dramatically slowed in their processing times because they have to be mentoring the new folks. So, you know, we went into this with, like I said, 35% lower staff and 50 to 60% in the units that are hit hardest most. So we weren't just like lean, we were like anorexic. And then we get to the point where when we finally did get the additional funding and approval because of the CARES Act, we had some come directly to us, some came to the state of Connecticut in the Corona Recovery Funds, the CRF, and then we were able to benefit from that. What that means is we brought on first 60 folks and then a second 60, and now we just brought on another 60, but they're new and they are still needing to train. So that's, you know, all happening and in our contact center, and we're seeing signs of progress. But at the same time, now you've got the back end that I described before, which is the adjudications and hearings. You cannot walk in the door as a brand new person and get skilled up to do adjudications and hearings. You just can't. And so it's very tough for us to kind of look at this big puzzle, and we're constantly, daily, if not weekly, we just move our experienced permanent staff around. And so, you know, we really are hoping going forward, long term, their support to be able to better equip our agency.
Wow. And so, you know, a similar question for Megan and Mike. How are you dealing with the virtual, and this came in from one of the people on the call, but how are you dealing with this virtual environment? How is staff dealing with it? How is your staff handling working remotely and still trying to get all of the work done that you were previously doing when everyone was in the office and able to, have this, sharing of ideas and what do you think and what do you think? And it was just like so much more accessibility. Are you guys finding that difficult? Is your staff finding it difficult to deal with?
Yeah, I can take that. I can tell you for my staff, we are utilizing the product that we're using right now with Teams. I mean, I'll tell you, I use this every day, and we try to bring each other together to bounce those ideas. As Cheryl, as you had mentioned, a lot of this is collaboration within your team. So we're using this. I am happy to say that we are processing certifications. We're, prior to the pandemic, we were at about 100 applications a month, and we're still right there. And that's certifying. That's not reviewing. I mean, the applications are coming in, but it's a different way of doing business. Where we're finding the struggle is we can do it on our end. It's getting the small businesses the equipment that they need to communicate with us. And that's a struggle, and that's hard, and that's a cost that they can't incur right now. They just can't do it. So we can do it on our end, but it's only as good as if we got to get the small businesses up. And I would love to hopefully get some funding for the small businesses to get the equipment they need to communicate virtually, because we can do it internally, but we can't do it externally to them. So that's where we're running into some issues. Mike, I don't know if you want to add to that.
Yes, and one of the positive things for EEOC is that we actually introduced our online portal last year, and we were going through training, and really we had like a test pilot period where we were really moving forward to putting everything online already. So this sort of sped up that process, but staff it hasn't been as difficult to move everything online because we had the process in place and we were doing a lot of training already. So that has been a positive note for us. But what has been hard is adjusting to do the investigations virtually. And I think, and communicating with one another and being in the house, and the distractions and the realities of what we all are facing with the pandemic. And I think that's what has been tough, and that we continue to try to be, open with one another and try to have these discussions of how those outside factors affect, because yes, our work is important, but the health and safety of others is as well. So we're trying to, and it can be difficult to merge the two. So I think that's where we really find the difficulties there. But it's important to have these kind of discussions and have these things to keep that moving.
So the title of this webinar is Surviving the Pandemic, and I just wanted to hear from each of the panelists. Can we survive this pandemic? That's a little bit rhetorical, but how can we survive this pandemic in light of what's happening across our country? There are a lot of issues related to civil rights and human rights and civil rights, law enforcement, and just creating equity and equality in our state and in our country. How can we do this? This is the $1 million question that I'm presenting to you, that if you have an answer to, I'm going to write it down and call CNN, and then I'll be on there. But I just want to know, your thoughts as the public, as our own employees, as we ourselves who are in management are finding it very difficult, to kind of navigate our way through some of this, some of the disproportionality, some of the atrocities, some of the, the unemployment rate skyrocketing, people feeling, down. And so do you have any this is a really long question I'm presenting to you to ultimately get to this really small ask. Are there some tips that you have in your role in this that people can use to better be able to deal with and survive the pandemic? Who wants to go first?
You know what, I'll take that. I don't know that I'm answering it exactly the way that you're asking it, but I think just from these last, 5 months of really just, this is pretty much like all that we do, and understanding how some folks are really, really genuinely struggling. I think that to me, I wish that more folks would find a way to get involved and even to connect and volunteer in some way, shape, or form, which becomes really hard when you're talking about in a virtual space, right? And I don't know exactly the answer to it, but what I do know is that, as I have listened to friends who are on the outside of what I do, it sometimes is rather disturbing because they just don't get it. I mean, I'm talking with folks all the time who I've needed to call and ask for welfare checks to be done on them because I'm concerned about their safety and others' safety because they're so desperate and feeling so desperate. And then I'll hear folks who are just not at all in touch with this and talking about, how could we be looking at putting additional funding towards, plus ups and the extra 600s and the four. And I just, I say, well, I just want you to spend like one day talking to the folks I'm talking to, one day answering the emails that I answer and understanding the despair. And so I don't know, I guess I don't know the answer to your question, but I think that there really needs to be people who are not being dramatically impacted by this, find a way to get in touch. Find a way to understand what other folks are going through, because empathy is a really important thing. And I just wish more folks got it.
Thank you.
This is Nadine Thomas from NAACP. I'm so happy to hear what the first speaker just said, because I was thinking along that line, how do we survive this? And one of the things I think is paramount to our surviving is having information come to us, and we also, our persons also seeking for information that will inform them and educate them about the opportunities and the resources that are available. I should put my camera on, right? That are available to, to help persons navigate through this time. And I was listening to, I really don't want to call her name wrongly, but the speaker from the Department of Labor, I was listening to her statistics. And I was wondering, just the disparities that we see with the numbers, is it because of lack of information? How much of it rather is impacted by lack of information? And also for people to get involved and to just get informed, not only about your situation, but how this impacts others and how can I help someone who is even more impacted than I am. And that's one of the things the NAACP has been doing. Of course, our efforts are being guided by our national office, and we have to follow instructions. So the kind of community outreach that we would do have been greatly curtailed. But what we try to do is to, as much as possible, respond to the calls and the emails, the complaints that come in. And we also go out to seek agencies that we can partner with, so we can refer people to the places where they need help. And that's how we can survive. That's one of the ways that we can survive. Seek information and receive information and share information.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, one of the things, if I could just chime in really fast, one of the things that we are doing in Department of Labor, the governor's office has been working with us to get this effort going, is sending out information and email blasts like 77,000 at a time to people who have applied. They don't have to necessarily be receiving, but have applied benefits. And we're sending it out about SNAP and Access Health and other, so that we can try to share other state services and collaborate in that way, you know, under the governor's purview.
I'm keeping a list of everything that everyone is saying so that as we wrap up, I can list the survival kit that will be the result of today's webinar.
Cheryl, I apologize for interrupting. I have to jump off. I have to get onto another meeting in a minute. So thank you so much. It's really been a pleasure to join this group. Take care, everybody.
Thank you so much for the information you provided to all of us.
Thank you. Be well.
Be in touch. Does anyone want to add to the list before I state it back and see if there are any questions? And if there are none, then we'll wrap up our meeting. But does anyone else? Mike, do you want to add anything, or Felicia, or our executive director stopped having technical difficulties, and I know that right after I did the intro, she joined, so I don't know if she has any survival kit information she wants to add to. But I think Felicia, is your hand up? Yes.
Yes. I would like to pretty much piggyback off of what someone said. And I think it was the speaker before me. Sometimes you have to look inside yourself to reinvent yourself. Mm-hmm. And I would hope that more of that takes place going forward. Because when you truly look inside yourself and you take that moment to reflect on the needs of others and reinvent yourself to assist them, your whole world can change. And I think just the example of the few businesses that started, the face mask businesses, the others that were spoken about during this time, there are so many more businesses that can be started during a crisis like this, that I really want to encourage those who are listening to, there's a lot of sadness going on and a lot of confusion, but embrace reinventing yourself to help someone else during this time.
Thank you.
This is Tanya. Well said, Felicia. And if I could just piggyback off of that sentiment, we are just so fortunate that we have so many resources available to us and so many partners as we all struggle to achieve social justice in our own special way. And so let's continue to work together and partner together and strengthen each other as we strengthen ourselves. And thank you to everyone that participated. I'm very pleased with the results, and I can't wait to see this total resource kit that has been developed and promulgated from today. Thank you.
Hey, and this is Mike, just to add a final note. Something that we've been doing locally in our district and the EEOC nationwide is that during this time we have to make sure that we focus on our vulnerable populations and underserved communities, because as everyone mentioned, information and resources is important more now than ever, because you can feel like you don't have anywhere to go, or you don't know what to do because you didn't realize that this is this type of issue or this is this type of problem. So I think getting out and trying to get the information out. I know we're doing things virtually, but just, being open-minded. And I think that can really help in dealing and helping everyone and helping others to deal with these types of issues and what we're going through right now.
So I have our survival toolkit based on the comments from everyone. I want to go through it, and then right before we close out, and it's first, get in touch, have some empathy. Second, information, seek it, and then share it. Once you have it, don't keep it to yourself. Make sure that you spread the information around. Send out email blasts. Dante talked about 77,000 emails going out to people containing information. That is really important, because then those 77,000 people, even if they touch one person, you have reached a substantial number of people. Reinvent and innovate. So you can reinvent yourself, you can innovate, you can start a business. That was the next one, number 5. And embrace that innovation, embrace that change. Work collaboratively, which I think is really important. That's what we did today, right? We worked collaboratively with, federal organizations, with other state organizations, with the NAACP, nonprofit organizations. But we came together to have this really important discussion and focus on the vulnerable populations of people that all of us are have some portion of our mission. That's what we're here for, right? To make sure there's equity or equality. It's certainly a part of our mission. I know it's a part of the mission of the EEOC. And it's certainly, there's some intersectionality with what the Department of Labor and what DAS has to do, and certainly with the NAACP. So that is our survival toolkit. I hope that this has, seeing no further questions, that this has been useful and informative for all of those who are still on the call and for those who had to leave early. And I want to thank you so much for your participation on behalf of the Connecticut Commission on Human Rights and Opportunities. I don't know if Tanya or Michelle have any final words, but I want to thank everyone for spending your afternoon with us. So Michelle is doing some type of miming, I think, because she's still on mute.
Twice moving call. How could that possibly be? I just want to remind everybody too that when we talk about sharing information, we are keeping a lot of this information on our website, and so please use it as a resource. That toolkit, I'm sure, will be processed and put up on our website under our COVID-19 tab. We have one that's a general tab. We have one for housing. And so I really encourage everyone to go to our website. We have a hotline that people can call and email address set up. We want to be here as a resource for individual questions and generally if you have questions. So please go to our website, www.ct.gov/CHRO.
Thank you, and everyone be healthy and safe.
Goodbye.
Yep, this is Tanya, ditto.